Alright, let's restart this video. I had a bit of a technical glitch a second ago, so I had to reset it.
What Obama said, and these are things that I'm quoting. He said the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. Slander? That means that the Prophet of Islam must have been telling the truth in your...
Complete and total non sequitur. Absurd. That doesn't follow even remotely.
Opinion, Obama. And what happened to the First Amendment? Whatever happened...
Obama never said he was going to make it illegal to criticize the Prophet Muhammad. So the First Amendment is just fine.
The freedom of speech. Why can't the future belong to those who speak their mind? Of course, he went on to say that the sweetest sound he knows, period, is the call to Muslim prayer. Really?
Yeah, really. Let's look that up. So, apparently this quote comes from the New York Times. Let's see what it actually says. So, quoting from it, Mr. Obama recalled the opening lines of the Arabic call to prayer, reciting them with a first-rate accent, not perfect Arabic, by the way. In a remark that seemed delightfully uncalculated, it'll give Alabama voters a heart attack, or heart attacks, actually, Mr. Obama described the call to prayer as one of the prettiest sounds on earth at sunset. Moreover, Mr. Obama's own grandfather in Kenya was a Muslim. Mr. Obama never met his grandfather and says he isn't sure if his grandfather's two wives were simultaneous or consecutive, or even if he was Sunni or Shiite. Okay, maybe Mr. Obama should just give up on Alabama. That's basically where the quote comes from. Now, Josh, what you're doing is you're taking it way out of context, and you're basically trying to claim that when he says that, he's talking about the prayer itself. Okay? Not necessarily. He could be talking about the language. Now, I've heard Arabic, because I've taken classes on Islam. Quite a few, actually. And I can tell you that the language does have an interesting sound to it. It's a very nice sounding language. It sounds good sung. It sounds good chanted. And that's what they sometimes do for the call to prayer, as I understand it.
Now, how could a Christian say that the sweetest sound that they've ever heard is the call to a Muslim prayer? The sweetest sound I've ever heard is the name of Jesus. That's why...
Well, that's not... Again, he might be talking about the tone of it. You're assuming that just because he thinks it sounds beautiful, that means that he is himself a Muslim. Well, that's absurd. That's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. To be honest, Josh, I've come to the conclusion that people really don't need to make ponage videos of you. You pwn yourself. You're that stupid. You're that ignorant. All you have to do is talk, and you look stupid immediately. You sound stupid. You just are stupid. So, let's let you keep being stupid here.
I'm a Christian. He goes on to say that Islam has and always will be part of America. Now...
Well, it will be, because we have religious freedom here. We have Muslims here. We have people of all different faiths. We've always had that. At least, since people started coming here. Do you really think that this has been a solely Christian nation from the very frickin' beginning? That's ignorant. That's just completely ignorant. The level of ignorance you display is just impressive. such that I think I need to make a new word to describe it. I haven't decided what that'll be. I might just use your last name as a word. Well, that's just Forestein. That's just Fierstein. It describes a level of just abject ignorance about reality. Sad.
Oh, yeah. Really? I look back at the Constitution, I look back at the Founding Fathers. Tell me which one of them was Muslim. Think of...
Well, none of them, but they did have dealings with Muslims. Okay? There are letters after the founding of America from our founders to the Ottoman Empire. Have you heard of the Treaty of Tripoli? Okay, let's look that up. Uh-oh. I hope I didn't just show... Well, let's pause it. So, I looked it up. I had to pause there because I had a bit of a technical difficulty. But basically, this is what was quoted in Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli. By our founders, by the way. As the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity, hatred against the laws, religion, or tranquility of the Muslimin, that's Muslims, and as the said states of America have never entered into any war or act of hostility against any okay, this is kind of a hard way to pronounce it because it's weirdly written. But basically, Mohammedan, I guess it is, nation, it is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries. Those two countries are the Ottoman Empire and the United States. So, there was some connection there. That doesn't mean they were Muslim, of course, the founders. What it means is that there were probably Muslims here that were protected. The First Amendment and the Constitution has always protected Muslims and other minority groups. Again, your ignorance is stunning.
About that. Then he goes on and says, I made clear that America is not and never will be at war with Islam. You're right, Mr. President, it's not, because you're not. But unfortunately, Islam is at war with America, whether you like it or not. He goes on to talk about wanting to celebrate Ramadan because they're in the White House because it is a holiday that promotes great diversity and racial equality.
Okay. Well, let me ask you something, Josh. Christmas is celebrated in the White House. Now, Christmas is generally these days considered a secular holiday. However, it cannot easily be separated from its Christian roots. What Obama is going on about here is that he wants to foster a culture of respect between Christians in the United States and Muslims. There has been a problem in that people, after September 11th and after some of the things that have happened, stereotype Muslims as all barbaric and evil people. There's also the issue of the First Amendment. You see, the White House is, well, the government. It's part of the government. And so for the White House to endorse Christianity by celebrating Christmas might be considered to be unconstitutional. It's hard to say. Now, I personally ain't going to complain about it, although I could, because it's kind of become a secular holiday. But it's still an issue. Besides which, even if that wasn't the case, it's nice of him to agree to something like that, not because he's a Muslim or anything, but because he wants to foster harmony between, Christians and Muslims. Those two religions, Josh, are the two biggest religions right now, as far as I know, last time I looked. Two biggest religions, both Abrahamic religions, both, although you'll deny it, worship the same God. The only difference is that they don't say Jesus was the Son of God. They say he was a prophet. There's other differences too, but that's one of the biggest differences. Islam, and I've said this before, is pretty much just a plagiarism of Christianity and Judaism. It's absurd that the three religions, despite agreeing with each other on so much, are at a state of hostility. Obama's trying to bridge that gap, and you're on his ass about it. That's bullshit.
Really? Have you read the Quran? Because it says kill the Christians and the Jews. Now tell me.
No, it doesn't, actually, as far as I know. Let me look that up. Let's look up that verse. I will tell you, however, that there are some Muslim scholars in the past who have said that. Not directly, though. Usually, Josh, Christians and Jews are considered peoples of the book, which means that they're respected. And they're respected because they follow the same God, or at least they're seen to. They're seen to follow an older revelation. Islam considers itself to be the final revelation of God. So let's look up that Quran verse you are talking about. There was one scholar named Al-Ghazali at one point who, while he didn't say to explicitly kill Christians and Jews, in his On the Limits of Theological Tolerance in Islam, wrote that certain non-believers deserve to be executed. Now, he never, of course, jumped at Christians for this, but he did label Christians as unbelievers. So So far, what I've found is verses about the Christians and Jews being, sent to hell. But of course you believe that about the Muslims, so why bother? But Josh, I'll let you look it up. I'll let you look it up because I think it's your job to prove that this is actually true. Because generally speaking, in Muslim societies, Christians have been protected, as have Jews. Now that's not as true anymore, but it used to be in many Muslim societies.
Where that celebrates racial diversity and any sort of equality. It doesn't. Then he goes on to say that his experience guides his convictions that the partnership between America and Islam must be based on what Islam is and not what it isn't, and that it is his responsibility as President of the United States, listen to this, to fight the negative stereotypes of Islam.
Well, it may not be his official job, but it's certainly a nice thing for him to do. Shouldn't he pursue the unity of his people? Shouldn't he try to pursue peace with people who believe different than us? I mean, even if the quotes you give are accurate, that's not evidence that he's a Muslim. It's just not. Like I said before, the very fact that he says he's Christian is itself a form of blasphemy in Islam. He would be considered an apostate by that token right there. So even if you were right, he would be considered an apostate and a blasphemer. And that's not very Muslim. Again, I'm going to have to stop this. I'm going to have to start again. There's just so much to dissect in his video. It's just so much bullshit.